Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at early childhood education,
Ooh.
but we're going to be looking at it through a very specific lens,
Yeah.
through the lens of a children's book called Numbers in the Jungle.
Okay, interesting.
This is written by Nicolaus Ioana,
Okay.
and it uses a very vibrant jungle theme
Okay.
to introduce numbers and counting to 3 to 4-year-olds.
That's a good age to start.
Yeah.
Math.
Yeah, and,
Fun.
all that jazz.
Yeah.
But it's not just fun and games.
Right.
We're hoping to kind of unpack how this seemingly simple book might be laying the groundwork for some pretty complex learning.
That's what's so interesting about early childhood education.
Yeah.
Even seemingly simple activities can tap into a lot of cognitive development for kids.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious to see how this book, with its jungle theme, approaches these early math concepts.
For sure. And there are some interesting quirks, too. Like, just to start us off,
Okay.
the book really hammers home this age range.
Yeah.
3 to 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
On almost every page.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I don't know if you noticed that.
That might seem like overkill at first glance,
Yeah.
But remember, developmental stages in early childhood
Right.
are incredibly specific.
Yeah.
A 1-year difference at that age can significantly impact a child's readiness to grasp concepts like counting
Oh, sure.
or number recognition.
Yeah.
So that emphasis on the age range could be a way for the creators
Yeah.
to signal to parents and educators that these activities are carefully tailored for that specific stage of development.
That makes sense. It's easy to forget how much development happens in such a short time at that age.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's another one.
Okay.
Every page has a space for name, surname.
Ah.
It feels very official for a jungle-themed coloring book.
It does seem a bit formal, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
But this could be intentional too.
Okay.
Research suggests that having children write their names on their work can foster a sense of ownership and pride.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It personalizes the learning experience, making them active participants rather than passive recipients of information.
So instead of just another workbook page,
Right.
it becomes Timmy's Jungle Adventure with numbers or whatever.
Exactly. And that sense of ownership
Yeah,
can be incredibly motivating for young learners.
that's great. All right, let's get into how the book actually introduces the numbers themselves.
Okay.
There's lots of big, bold numbers
Yeah.
paired with pictures of, say, 3 monkeys swinging from a vine.
Uh-huh.
Pretty standard stuff, right?
Might seem basic, but that visual association is
Yeah.
fundamental for this age group.
Okay.
Think about it. Children are naturally drawn to images.
Oh, yeah.
Connecting those images to numerical values helps build those initial connections between concrete objects and abstract symbols.
So it's not just about memorizing the shape of a number.
Right.
It's about understanding that the number represents a quantity of something.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
as children progress through the book,
Okay.
the activities get a bit more challenging. Oh, okay.
Instead of just seeing the number 3 with 3 monkeys,
Right.
they might have to count a group of jungle animals and then color in a box matching the correct number.
So that they're moving from simple recognition
Yes.
to actually engaging in counting and applying that knowledge.
Yes. But that gradual increase in complexity is a key element of what educators call scaffolding.
Okay.
It's about providing support and structure at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then gradually removing it as the child's skills develop,
Oh.
leading them to more independent learning.
So it's like building a set of jungle gyms,
Yeah.
starting with one that's low to the ground,
Right.
and then gradually increasing the height and complexity as the kid gets more confident.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, great.
And what's fascinating is that the book seems to do this not just with numerical concepts,
Yeah.
but also with language.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that sometimes the instructions are phrased a little oddly.
Oh, yeah. Like one exercise says, color the box that shows the number of jungle animals or more in the boxes.
It's not exactly grammatically perfect,
Right.
but maybe there's a reason for that.
Perhaps it's a deliberate attempt to spark interaction and conversation.
Okay.
A parent or teacher reading the instructions with a child might have to rephrase or
Right.
clarify the wording,
Yeah.
turning it into a dialogue about numbers and comparisons.
So those slightly clunky phrases could actually be opportunities for deeper learning.
Exactly.
That's pretty clever. There's some other details that caught my eye.
Okay.
Remember those name, surname fields we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out there's also a field at the top of each page for class.
Interesting. It does make you wonder if this book was initially designed for a classroom setting.
Yeah,
Perhaps it was later adapted for home use, keeping some of those structural elements.
that's a good point, and it makes me think about those slightly odd phrases we discussed earlier, like jungle animals or more.
Right.
Could it be that those were originally in another language
Yeah.
and something got lost in translation?
It's certainly possible. Subtleties of language can sometimes be tricky to convey across different languages.
For sure.
It would be interesting to see if the book has been published in other languages
Yeah.
and compare the wording of those instructions.
It's like a little linguistic puzzle hidden within this children's activity book.
Yeah.
Who knew?
It just shows that there's always more to discover when we delve deeper into a subject,
Mm-hmm.
even one as seemingly straightforward as a children's book.
Right.
And speaking of discoveries,
Yeah.
did you notice how the book subtly introduces the concept of larger numbers as it progresses?
Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
I did see a section where kids had to circle a specific number hidden among a bunch of others.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those numbers went way beyond what you typically expect for a 3 or 4-year-old.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're not explicitly teaching place value or numerical order at that age,
Right.
but they are exposing kids to these larger numbers through
Yeah.
visual recognition and pattern identification.
So instead of just counting 1, 2, 3,
Right.
they might see a page full of numbers like 65, 92, 107,
Yeah,
and have to pick out all the sevens, for example.
exactly. It's about planting those seeds early on, expanding their numerical world without overwhelming them.
Right.
It also highlights the importance of not underestimating young learners.
Yeah.
They're capable of grasping more complex concepts than we often give them credit for,
Yeah.
especially when presented in an engaging and accessible way.
I'm starting to realize these seemingly simple children's activity books
Yeah.
can be a lot more sophisticated than they appear at first glance.
Right.
It's not just about keeping kids busy with coloring.
No.
It's about sparking their curiosity
Yeah.
and laying the groundwork for future learning.
I couldn't agree more. It's a reminder that learning can happen anywhere and anytime,
Mm-hmm.
even in the most unexpected places. And it often happens best when it's disguised as play.
So instead of drilling kids with flashcards,
Yeah?
we can create these immersive, playful experiences that make learning feel like an adventure.
Totally.
I'm already thinking about all the everyday objects and activities I can transform into learning opportunities for the little ones in my life.
That's the beauty of it. It's about looking at the world through a child's eyes,
Yeah.
seeing the potential for learning in everything around us, and it's never too early to start fostering that love of learning.
That's really cool. So we started with this colorful little activity book,
Yeah.
and we've uncovered all these layers of educational thought.
It really highlights the point that even the simplest tools can be really effective when, they're designed with intention
Oh, yeah.
and a deep understanding of how children learn.
We talked about visual learning, the power of context, the gradual introduction of complexity, those subtle language prompts, and even the potential impact on a child's sense of ownership
Yeah.
and pride in their work.
It all comes back to that core principle of making learning fun and engaging.
For sure.
When children are excited about learning, they're more likely to retain information and develop a lifelong love of exploring new ideas.
So listeners out there, parents, educators, or just anyone with a curious mind,
Yeah.
what can you take away from our deep dive into Numbers in the Jungle?
Look at the world around you with a fresh perspective.
Okay.
See the learning potential in everyday objects and activities.
Yeah.
Turn a trip to the grocery store into a counting game.
Right.
Use building blocks to explore shapes and
Yeah.
spatial reasoning, or create a musical masterpiece
Yeah.
out of household items.
It's about sparking that sense of wonder and discovery in children
Absolutely.
and in ourselves.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that quote, "The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper."
Beautifully said. And it's never too late to sharpen those senses
Yeah.
and embrace the joy of learning no matter our age.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of numbers, jungles, and the surprising depth of children's learning materials. Thanks for joining us.